You're listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to review Friday Night SmackDown from July 21st, 2023. Of course, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso engage in a series of rules of engagement that leads, I should say, towards tribal combat at this year's SummerSlam. Overall thoughts on this week's SmackDown. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I did not enjoy the show whatsoever. This show, number one, was pretty boring. Nothing really special happened on the show besides the Bloodline segment. Yeah, we had a U.S. Title Invitational match, four-way match, of course, with Rey Mysterio, LA Knight, Sheamus, and Cameron Grimes, in which the wrong man won. Of course, I'm talking about Rey Mysterio getting the win, and next week he will be facing Santos Escobar on SmackDown. I get why they want to do that, but if there was a better chance, if there was a chance to really pull the trigger on LA Knight, tonight was definitely the night to do it. Of course, we also had Santos Escobar versus Austin Theory, which, if you really think about it, on paper makes no sense, and what they showed us on the screen made no sense either, with Santos Escobar getting the clean pin over Austin Theory. We had Charlotte Flair wrestle Iyo Sky on this show. I thought it wasn't really that bad of a match in my opinion. They went a little longer than I expected, but nonetheless, I didn't really care as much. And of course, we also had the final segment to that being Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, the rules of engagement. And I thought it was a great segment. Was this the best Bloodline segment? No. I mean, clearly the previous weeks, we had great Bloodline segments. And unfortunately, you're going to have duds like this segment. But not to say that segment was bad. If you really compare this segment to other Bloodline segments, clearly this is at the bottom of the barrel. But nothing bad happened on that particular segment. But really, overall, not really the best SmackDown show. I didn't really enjoy this show whatsoever. The booking was very questionable on this show. Some stuff made no sense. And to top it all off, there was really not a lot of things that really piqued my interest besides the main event segment, that being the Bloodline with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. But before I get on with all this craziness regarding Friday Night SmackDown, of course, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and, as the Virgin Referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Of course, if you guys had missed it, of course, the AEW Dynamite review, Blood and Guts, is up on the channel. I talk about an insane amount of violence on all levels as the Golden Elite, yes, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Kota Ibushi, and Hangman Adam Page take on the Blackpool Combat Club, in which was probably AEW's best Blood and Guts match so far in the match's history. And I'm only talking about AEW. I'm not talking about War Games in general. I'm talking about AEW as a whole. But nonetheless, it was a fantastic show, fantastic match. MJF and Adam Cole finally hit the double clothesline, and it was literally the best thing ever. Also, if you guys had missed it as well, the Monday Night Raw review is up on the channel. Surprisingly, I actually thought Raw was actually not that bad. If you actually compare Raw to SmackDown this week, Raw was actually the better show, in my opinion. We have Cody Rhodes returning home to Atlanta with a standing ovation, and nonetheless, I thought it was a pretty good show. If you guys haven't checked out the Monday Night Raw review, the links will be in the description for both the Dynamite and Raw reviews up on this channel. All right, let's discuss Friday Night SmackDown. As I stated at the top of this review, this was not really the best show. Again, there was some decisions that were very questionable in my opinion. For example, LA Knight not winning this match made no sense whatsoever. I did not like the idea of them not really giving LA Knight the opportunity. But I'll talk about that as, after I finish, going through the match. So before the match even begins, LA Knight was the last wrestler to make the entrance, and he cuts a promo. Let me talk to ya. SummerSlam's right around the corner, and they call it the biggest party of the summer. But the party he wants to go to is him taking that United States Championship. And tonight he has 3 men that stand in his way, but one by one each of them, because they will all realize, or I should say one by one he should go through each of them, because they will all realize whose game it is when they say his name, L.A. Knight. Yeah. So this man cuts a fiery promo, man. This man knows he's over like $1 million. So the match starts. Grimes takes right to the outside. LA Knight is in control. Once we're back in commercial break, LA Knight is in control over Sheamus. Sheamus then picks up LA Knight. He rolls LA Knight with a rolling senton. We then get a back elbow by LA Knight. At this point, LA Knight gets taken to the apron. Sheamus takes him out. We get a roll up by Cameron Grimes. We get a near fall. Then we get a Hurricane Rana by Rey on Grimes, and then Grimes is up on the apron. Sheamus and Rey Mysterio fight off. After that, Rey and Sheamus go for the double 10 beats of the bowing on both LA Knight and Cameron Grimes, who are both on the apron. Sheamus then offers, or I should say, Rey Mysterio offers a handshake by Rey. Actually, no, Sheamus actually offered the handshake by Rey, but Rey tried to swerve him, and he tried to roll him up, but Sheamus catches him, and what happens is he ends up picking up Rey Mysterio, but Rey escapes and ends up hitting a dropkick. Sheamus then goes to the second rope, but then Sheamus counters into a Irish Curse backbreaker. After that, Sheamus picks him up. Grimes comes in with the crossbody, and then Grimes goes for a series of kicks on the chest on both Sheamus and Rey. Then LA Knight enters the fray. He gets hit with the enziguri, and then Grimes plants Rey down to the mat. We then get a cover by Grimes and a near fall when Sheamus comes in. Sheamus then hits a right hand. Sheamus then picks up Cameron Grimes, but then Grimes ends up going for the dropkick. He ends up hitting repeated kicks, but then he runs into Sheamus, and then he ends up hitting a backbreaker, and then he sends LA Knight to the outside. LA Knight then manages to drag Sheamus to the outside, and then he drives Sheamus onto the apron. Rey's on the top, and then Grimes runs into a forearm by LA Knight, and then we get a dropkick by Rey on LA Knight, and he takes LA Knight in the ring. He goes to the top, but then LA Knight comes in. He goes to the second rope, but then Sheamus is up on the second rope once again, or I should say as well. Both Knight and Sheamus fight off Rey. Both men get dropped, but then LA Knight ends up coming back. Sheamus gets up, and then he ends up going for the head scissors by, Cameron Grimes goes for the head scissors, but it got countered. And what happens is that there's this big-ass Tower of Doom spot, and it takes all 4 men down. Once we're back from commercial break, we get a cover by Grimes on Rey and a near fall. After that, Rey goes for the back elbow. Rey is up on the shoulders of Cameron Grimes, but then he gets taken to the outside. We then get a Hurricane Rana by Rey on Austin Theory's chair, because Austin Theory, of course, the current United States champion, was actually on the outside next to the announce table watching this match. Sheamus takes out Cameron Grimes and Rey Mysterio. Grimes then gets sent to the barricade, and then he sends Rey to the barricade, and then Sheamus goes to the top. We get a clothesline, a diving clothesline, I should say, by Sheamus on LA Knight. Sheamus then slams him down, but then Sheamus picks up LA Knight, and he ends up hitting the white noise. We get a cover and a kick out. Sheamus then tries, of course, to tune up the band, setting up the bro kick, basically. And Grimes comes in. LA Knight manages to catch Sheamus, and he plants him down. We get a cover and a near fall when Rey Mysterio enters the fray. Then Grimes ends up hitting a kick. Sheamus goes for the running knee, but then Knight picks up Sheamus. And then he drives down Sheamus, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Grimes then drops down Rey, and then we get a cover and a near fall once again. Rey is up on the apron, but then we get an enziguri on Grimes by Rey Mysterio. He goes to the top, but then Grimes comes back, but then Sheamus comes in. Grimes is up on Sheamus' shoulders. Grimes escapes, and then we get the Hurricane Rana by Rey, sending Grimes and Rey to the middle rope. And Rey tries to go for the double 619, and he actually succeeds, and he ends up hitting a crossbody. We get a cover into near fall when later on Theory drags Rey Mysterio to the outside, so he is pissed off. Then Santos Escobar from the LWO, the winner of last week's Fatal 4-Way match, comes in and attacks Rey Mysterio. Escobar then takes out Theory into the crowd, and then we get an elbow drop by LA Knight. So LA Knight is in the ring, and it looks like LA Knight is actually going to steal the victory, which I legitimately hoped for. Then Sheamus ends up hitting the bro kick. Grimes ends up hitting the cave-in. Head scissors by Rey. So spot after spot after spot, and we get a cover, and Rey Mysterio wins the match, and he will face Santos Escobar next week, and whoever wins will be facing Austin Theory for the United States Championship. Overall thoughts on this match. This wasn't a bad match. My problem is not the match. My problem is the outcome. You guys know me. I'm very high on LA Knight. You can call him a knockoff Rock all you want. But if he has the crowd by the palm of his hands, and if he is over with the audience, clearly you have something special. if there is a guy that can take the belt, the U.S. title, off of Austin Theory, it is clearly LA Knight. The fact that they did not pull the trigger on LA Knight advancing in this quote-unquote United States Championship Invitational, in my opinion, makes absolutely no sense. Because, number one, I understand that WWE wants to do this, Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar, one-on-one match, right? If you really think about it, in a way, it kind of makes sense. And further on down the line, let's be real here. We all know Santos Escobar is a very good heel. And we do know eventually, especially with the way Santos Escobar has been, and I don't want to say handled because the LWO has been phenomenal, but Santos Escobar is really at this point starting to act like a kiss-ass towards Rey Mysterio that you can tell like they're definitely going to turn this man heel in the future. But again, and speaking of the LWO, like the LWO, in my opinion, lost a lot of momentum. Really, there's nothing, compared to where the LWO was like maybe a month or two ago compared to now, really, I feel like there's no focus on the LWO, which absolutely sucks because I absolutely love the LWO. Rey Mysterio forming the LWO once again is actually one of the best things that Triple H has ever done in, of course, his tenure and still tenured reign as head of creative. But still, I think Rey Mysterio getting the win, to me, made no sense. I get that they want to do Santos Escobar versus Rey Mysterio, but, LA Knight clearly, if there was a time to really push LA Knight, this is the time to push LA Knight. Because WWE should know LA Knight is super over with the audience. He literally has the audience in the palm of his hands. I guarantee you this man's a top merch seller. Like, this guy is super popular. And the fact that they didn't they didn't really push LA Knight in this instance and get the win, make LA Knight get the win, to me, I just didn't enjoy. It would have made way more sense for him to beat Santos Escobar, in my opinion. And also, it would have made more sense if LA Knight was the guy to beat Austin Theory. Because newsflash, Austin Theory is doing nothing with the United States Championship. He's doing absolutely nothing with the belt. A win over John Cena did nothing. And I will say this until the day I die. Beating John Cena at WrestleMania for Austin Theory did nothing for his career. Absolutely nothing for his career. Nobody right now is talking about Austin Theory beating John Cena. It really isn't. Again, I talked about how he lost the Money in the Bank last year. It was probably the best decision for his career because if he had successfully cashed in the Money in the Bank, Austin Theory would have ended up being a transitional champion. Look, Austin Theory, with the somewhat of a character change that they made from being, Mr. McMahon's right-hand man or protege or whatever into just this brash type of heel was a great transition. But I believe Austin Theory is not ready for that position right now, and it's going to take a while for him to get there. And to be honest, he's not doing a lot of stuff with the U.S. title. There's a guy that can definitely elevate the United States Championship. It's clearly a guy like LA Knight. And unfortunately, we're not going to be getting that anytime soon because guarantee you, the man who ends up facing Austin Theory, the winner of this whole United States Championship invitation, the guy that ends up facing Austin Theory in the long run is going to end up losing regardless. And clearly, we saw that because Santos Escobar, who is literally in a match against another wrestler, that being Rey Mysterio, to get a shot at Austin Theory, beat Austin Theory on this show. And that is something that made absolutely no sense. No sense whatsoever, and I'll talk about that later on this review. Austin Theory is backstage, and he asks, the interviewer, who does Santos Escobar thinks he is? He attacks him, and he wants a match against him tonight. And, of course, Adam Pearce is like, the match is made tonight, and it is official for the United States Championship. Theory then is like, no. I don't want a match for the United States Championship. It's not about the title. I just want Santos Escobar one-on-one. And he wants him one-on-one. And what's really funny is that Adam Pearce, right, and this is why I feel like there's some stupidity when it comes to logic in WWE TV. Adam Pearce in kayfabe is the manager, right? He's the manager and he controls everything. Some of these decisions in kayfabe make no goddamn sense. Why the fuck would you literally, if this was a legit sport, why the fuck would you let Raquel Rodriguez go out and compete while she has like a kayfabe injured knee or something like that? If this were real, that'd be bad officiating, in my opinion. That'd be bad management if this were real. And another thing, Adam Pearce kind of looked stupid in this scenario because they clearly booked a U.S. Championship Invitational basically a tournament consisting of 2 Fatal 4-Ways, and the winner of those 2 Fatal 4-Ways will face each other next week in order to face Austin Theory for the United States Championship. One of those being Santos Escobar, who will face Rey Mysterio next week. And Adam Pearce looked absolutely so stupid and was like, oh, I will book you. You want Santos Escobar tonight? Okay, we'll have it tonight for the United States Championship. Then what the fuck happened to Rey Mysterio? Bro, the small things just drive me crazy and makes no goddamn sense. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And, with Theory getting pissed off, again, they make people look so stupid. They really do. LA Knight, again, you know how I talked about LA Knight should have been the guy to get the win? LA Knight cut a promo basically saying, I'm going to go after that U.S. title. Meanwhile, he loses the match. So then what the hell was the point of cutting that promo? If you think about it, what was the point of him cutting that promo? Adam Pearce. Oh, you want Santos Escobar? Okay, we will book it for the United States Championship, and then all of a sudden you change your mind because you realize you were fucking stupid. And I'm not saying Adam Pearce is legitimately stupid. I'm just talking about it from a kayfabe perspective. It just made no sense in this backstage segment. It just made no sense. Why would you book a match for the United States Championship, even though with Austin Theory, with the guy that is clearly in the finals of this tournament, that grants him a title match against Austin Theory? That's my argument. So that was really stupid. But at the end of the day, this match was not for the United States Championship, and it was still a one-on-one match, which still makes no sense as well in the long run. And I'll talk about that later on because it was just absolutely ridiculous. Charlotte versus Iyo Sky. So we had Charlotte versus Iyo Sky. Both lock up. We got a shoulder tackle by Charlotte. First off, I thought the match was pretty good. There were some spots that were kind of iffy. There was one spot, there was a Hurricane Rana spot, I believe, on the outside, which didn't look really good, but I'll talk about that later on. But surprisingly, it wasn't that bad of a match. I feel like the only issue with this match was not really the spots. Now, granted, some of the spots were, again, a little iffy, but really the crowd, I felt like, was not really as invested into it. I felt, even though with the amount of work that Charlotte and Iyo Sky were doing, the crowd just didn't give a shit, in my opinion. But both lock up. We got a shoulder tackle by Charlotte. Charlotte goes for a series of cartwheels, and then Iyo goes for a series of cartwheels. We then get a dropkick by Iyo. After that, Charlotte drives down on Iyo Sky. Charlotte runs into a boot. Later on in the match, I'm not going to go through everything. Iyo drives Charlotte onto the bottom rope. Iyo then is on the apron, and then Charlotte hits a boot. And again, this was the spot I was talking about. Iyo hits a Hurricane Rana, and this was, I don't want to say a very bad Hurricane Rana, but I got to watch this back, but it kind of looked like it was on Charlotte's part. I felt like it didn't really connect towards Charlotte, and Charlotte still sold it, which looked very horrible in my opinion. It looked very bad. So that was a pretty bad botch in my opinion. But once we're back from break, Charlotte is in control. She takes Iyo back into the ring, but then we get a right hand by Charlotte. Iyo then regains control, and then she ends up hitting the double knees into the corner. And then we get a cover by Iyo and a near fall. Later on in the match, Charlotte goes for repeated chops. She ends up hitting a fall-away slam on Iyo Sky. Charlotte gets up on her feet. Then we get a cartwheel clothesline by Charlotte, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Charlotte then drives Iyo into the corner, and then she takes Iyo to the top. Then we get a chop by Charlotte onto the top, but then Bayley interferes. And then she does the distraction. We then get a sunset flip by Iyo, but then we get a cover by Iyo and a near fall. Then on the Titantron, Shotzi is basically playing mind games with Bayley, kind of similar to when Undertaker was playing mind games with Kane, but very less scary in this instance. Bayley then gets scared. Later on, Charlotte ends up hitting the moonsault. Iyo then hits a boot, and then Iyo goes for the crossface submission. Charlotte goes for the roll-up, and then we get a near fall. Then Charlotte hits a boot. Then Iyo drives down the knee on Charlotte, and then she goes to the top. She tries to go for the shotgun dropkick off the top, but she misses. Charlotte then applies the Boston Crab. Iyo goes for the roll-up, and we get a near fall. Then we get a shotgun dropkick by Iyo, and then Iyo proceeds to fight off Charlotte. Then she lands into a spear, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Charlotte then tries to apply the figure four. We then get a roll-up by Iyo and a near fall. Charlotte goes for the German suplex, and then we get another near fall. Iyo then counters and goes for repeated stomps on Charlotte, but then Charlotte goes up to the second rope. Iyo manages to target the knee of Charlotte, but then Iyo goes to the top. Iyo goes for the head scissors or the Hurricane Rana, whatever you want to call it. Then we get a near fall. Charlotte and Iyo go for a series of roll-up reversals. Then Charlotte ends up hitting the natural selection, and we get a cover, and Charlotte Flair ends up winning the match. After the match, Asuka comes in and attacks Charlotte, hitting a German suplex. She then applies the armbar, and then the referees come in, and Asuka breaks the armbar. Of course, this is in build-up to the triple threat match that was recently announced for SummerSlam, and it is official. For the WWE Women's Championship, it is going to be Asuka defending her title against Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair. This was pretty much expected. I remember a couple of weeks ago I thought there was going to be like a one-on-one grudge feud between Charlotte and Bianca, but from what it looks like right now, and they've been really leading to it for the past couple of weeks on television, that we're definitely going to be getting a triple threat match between Bianca, Charlotte, and Asuka. Am I excited? No, because, again, this feud really hasn't done anything for me. The women's divisions on both WWE and AEW, really. In my opinion, there's kind of a lack of direction, and the feuds on both promotions, really, I'm not genuinely interested in. Not to say that the talent is bad. The biggest problem is not the talent. It's just the booking. That's basically the only reason I can give you. But after that, we got Mr. Dirty Dom, the new NXT North American champion, Dominik Mysterio, with Rhea Ripley, who is the current Women's World Champion, backstage. Of course, he came to SmackDown because he wants to show his deadbeat dad what a real champion looks like. And if he wins the U.S. title, he's the only champion in the United States. But the new North American champion, he is the champion of North America and 23 other countries. Then Mr. Pete Dunne comes in. Butch. And he talks about how it feels like Fight Night. And he challenges him to a match for that title. And then Shawn Michaels comes in. He basically makes the match official. I'm not really against Dominik Mysterio winning the North American title. Yes, you can say them bringing in, main roster talent is a ratings ploy, because it clearly is. It clearly is a ratings ploy. I don't give a shit what anybody says, but Dominik Mysterio winning a championship, the story is there. They are doing a story with Judgment Day. Damian Priest has the Money in the Bank. Dominik Mysterio has the North American Championship, and Rhea Ripley has the Women's World Championship, and Finn Balor has nothing. And my only issue with this is Dominik Mysterio is a Raw talent. Why is he on SmackDown? Now, I see a lot of people on the internet talk about how they were in Orlando and, they're showcasing a lot of NXT talent because, of course, Orlando is the home of NXT. This is where the Performance Center is. And I understand that argument. But at the same time, they could have easily done this on a Raw, not in Orlando. That's my argument. So why the hell do you have to fly Dominik, who is a Raw talent, all the way to SmackDown to defend his title? What the hell happened to the brand split? The brand split makes absolutely no sense. It just doesn't make any sense. At this point, you could just abolish the brand split, but WWE is not going to do that because of the networks that they are affiliated with. The brand split makes absolutely no sense. And I talked about this for months. The biggest problem with the brand split in 2023 is the fact that there is a lack of exclusivity. That is the biggest problem with the brand split right now. A lack of exclusivity. You can say a guy is exclusive to Raw all you want. At the end of the day, they are not exclusive to Raw because they flip back and forth between brands. And now you're seeing main roster talent go on NXT. Now, granted, I don't watch NXT, so I can't really complain. But again, isn't NXT considered a third brand? So then why are you bringing main roster talent towards NXT? It's the same thing with bringing in talent from, SmackDown over to Raw or vice versa. AEW has the same fucking problem. Why do we have, the biggest problem with Ring of Honor right now is not only a lack in direction, but why does Ring of Honor, have a lot of AEW talent? Because if you look at the champions of Ring of Honor right now, Claudio is your world champion. Athena is your women's champion. The Lucha Bros are your World Tag Team Champions. Actually, as of right now, I believe Aussie Open beat them because Death Before Dishonor was happening. And Aussie Open are the new Tag Team Champions. And they are AEW talent as well. Aussie Open are the Tag Team Champions. And who else? Kazuyoshi Shibata. He's not even employed with AEW / Ring of Honor. He's a New Japan talent. And he's the pure champion. There's a lack of exclusivity. Not only in WWE, but there's a lack of exclusivity in AEW as well. Really, the closest that we have towards a brand split, and it's not even an official brand split, is Dynamite and Collision. And that is on the AEW side. And I'm not saying that because I'm an AEW fanboy. I'm saying that because it's the truth. Because we have dedicated storylines that only happen on Collision, and we have dedicated stories that happen on Dynamite. And some other stories will overlap from Dynamite and Collision. That's really the closest that you have towards a quote-unquote roster split. And that roster split is not even an official roster split. WWE can't even do a roster split right. Hell, even AEW can't even do a roster split right because, again, ROH and AEW are supposed to be separate entities, but you got talent from AEW that are champions in Ring of Honor. You know what I'm saying? So both WWE and AEW definitely have that fucking issue. But yeah, that's my little rant on that. We got Roman Reigns backstage with Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman. And Roman is holding his necklace, and he looks at Solo Sikoa just like, calmingly, but really a weird look on Roman Reigns' face like, bro, are you really going to steal my throne? After that, we got Austin Theory versus Santos Escobar. The booking of this match made no sense because, again, Santos Escobar is going to be wrestling Rey Mysterio. And granted, this wasn't a title match, so in a sense, you can understand as to why they do it, but still, looking at it now, it just makes no sense because, again, Santos Escobar was the winner of last week's Fatal 4-Way. He's going to be facing the winner of this week's Fatal 4-Way next week on the show. And the winner of that match will be facing Austin Theory for the United States Championship, primarily at SummerSlam, I assume. So why are you booking Santos Escobar versus Austin Theory again? He could possibly be the winner of Rey and Santos Escobar, so why are you booking this match now? And not only that, again, as I talked about earlier on in the show, Adam Pearce looked really stupid because he was like, oh yeah, you want a title match? Okay, we'll book Santos Escobar versus Austin Theory, not even realizing from a kayfabe perspective that Santos Escobar has to get through Rey Mysterio in order to face Austin Theory for the United States Championship. Logic apps, bro. We need logic, please. The booking of this match made no sense. Not only that, Austin Theory lost, which it makes no sense as well because, again, it makes Austin Theory look weak. I don't want to compare him to Jungle Boy because Jungle Boy kind of looks weak as well. With Hook chasing him on Dynamite almost every fucking week. But, why does Austin Theory lose the United States Championship? That just devalues the U.S. title, in my opinion. But I digress. I mean, like Austin Theory, I don't really give a shit about Austin Theory, so I can't really get mad about that. But let's go through the match. Both lock up. We get, Santos goes immediately after Austin Theory. He picks up Santos, but then Santos escapes. He ends up hitting a drop kick. After that, Theory goes for repeated stomps on Santos, and then we get a snap suplex by Theory. We then get a cover and a near fall. Santos goes for repeated right hands. Then he gets sent into the corner, and then we get the head scissors by Santos. After that, Theory goes for a DDT, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Theory is in control over Santos Escobar. Santos is on the second rope and hits repeated right hands. We then get a cover by Santos and a near fall. We then get a cover again by Santos and a near fall. We then get the roll-up once again by Santos Escobar. Theory escapes. Santos later on clotheslines Theory to the outside. Once we're back from commercial break later on in the match, we get a backbreaker by Theory. We get a near fall. Theory is on the apron, then he tries to pick up Santos, but then Santos manages to escape. Santos ends up hitting the Enziguri, and then we get a tope suicida by Santos on Theory. Theory is on the announce table, and then Santos takes down Theory repeatedly. He ends up hitting the Hurricane Rana, and then he gets taken to the apron. And then we get a right hand by Santos Escobar, and then he hits the kick, and then we get a crossbody by Santos. We then get a cover by Santos and a near fall, and then Theory counters the Phantom Driver, and Theory ends up hitting a left hand after that. We get a cover and a near fall. Theory then drives him down onto the neck with a modified brainbuster. That's what Michael Cole stated on commentary. And then we get a cover and a near fall, and then he ends up picking up Santos Escobar, and then Santos counters the A-Town down. And what happens is Santos hits a dropkick. He takes him up, but then Theory pushes him off. Santos comes back, and then Theory hits repeated right hands. We got a jumping, and this was actually a beautiful spot. We got a jumping Hurricane Rana off the top rope by Santos Escobar, taking down Austin Theory to the mat. That was a very, very, very beautiful spot, in my opinion. After that, he drives the knee into the corner, and then he ends up hitting the Phantom Driver, and we get a cover, and Santos wins and beats the U.S. champion, Austin Theory, clean, dead center in the ring. Yeah. What a way to devalue the United States Championship, in my opinion. Austin Theory losing, in a way, if you think about it, kind of makes no sense. But the booking of this match in general made no sense. And I'm not talking about the match itself. I'm just talking about why the fuck would you book this match on a SmackDown knowing damn well Santos could easily beat Rey Mysterio next week. We don't know if he will, but he could easily beat Rey Mysterio next week, and then we would get the match, maybe in 2 weeks' time or at SummerSlam between Austin Theory and Santos Escobar. So the booking of this match just made absolutely no sense. It just absolutely made no sense because Santos is a part of this quote-unquote tournament. So why is he getting a first crack at the champion in a non-title match? That just makes no sense, and it really renders the quote-unquote United States Championship Invitational absolutely useless. That's my point that I'm trying to make. That is the argument that I'm trying to make. But it is what it is. Mr. Bobby Lashley is backstage, and he meets up with the NXT champion, Carmelo Hayes. What could this mean? Last week he was with, of course, the Street Profits, and he brought them in the limo. Clearly something's going on here. I see a lot of people, and even myself, I pointed out, maybe could this be a new version of the Hurt Business? Who knows? I always thought the Hurt Business was way, way, way underutilized. Even though, Bobby Lashley won, the WWE title, and Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander won the tag team titles. Really, what was the point of the Hurt Business? Because they didn't really treat the Hurt Business, in my opinion, as a big deal. And I felt like they split them up way too much. And they tried to do a Hurt Business reunion, but it ended up falling off a cliff. Now look at what Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin are doing. They're literally in catering right now doing absolutely nothing. Absolutely rendered useless. What is Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin doing? Nothing. So it's very interesting developments going on, and we're going to have to wait and see what they do. We got Dominik Mysterio taking on Butch from the Brawling Brutes for the NXT North American Championship. NXT was all over this show, which kind of makes sense because, of course, NXT is in Orlando. But Dominik defends his North American Championship on SmackDown, which it would have made a little more sense, in my opinion, if they had him defend it on a Raw because, again, Dominik is a guy from Raw. Now, I get they were in Orlando, but still, it makes no sense. So what's the point of Dominik showing up? All right, both men lock up. We got a side headlock by Doc. I said Doc. Who? Doc Ock. Butch is in control. Butch works on the fingers of Dominik. He stomps on the arm of Dominik, but then Butch stomps at the head of Dominik. He continues to work on the joint manipulation. And after that, Dominik goes to Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley gets Dominik a steel chain. Rich Holland then comes in and snatches it away. And then we get an enziguri by Butch, and then he drops down Dominik, but then we get a cover and a near fall. Once we're back from commercial break, Dominik is in control. We get a cover by Dominik and a near fall. He hits repeated right hands on Butch, but then Pretty Deadly come in. Elton Prince is being carried in a freaking wheelchair, and he's getting walked. He's basically getting dragged by Kit Wilson. So Pretty Deadly come in, right? And what happens is Butch goes for the enziguri into the corner. He drives his knee onto the arm of Dominik, and then he hits a right hand on Dominik. We then get a running kick by Butch, but then Dominik takes Butch to the second rope. Butch then, is on the middle rope, and it looks like he's about to get hit with the 619 by Dominik. But what happens is he counters it, and then we get a stomp by Butch followed by a kick. And then we get a cover and a near fall. Kit Wilson then hits a right hand on Ridge Holland, who actually ends up getting involved. Butch then gets involved in the whole brawl. Wilson runs away. And what happens is Butch and Ridge Holland literally are right next to each other, and Elton Prince, who is in the wheelchair, is just looking dead center at both of them like, oh shit, I'm fucked. And what happens is Elton Prince tricks all of us, and he literally gets up off the wheelchair and then leaves. So he runs away. Butch goes back into the ring, and we get a kick, and after that, Rhea gets involved. Dominik then sends Butch to the post. Dominik goes for the cover, and he ends up winning and retains the NXT North American Championship. I'm not against the idea of Dominik winning the North American Championship. Yes, you can say Wesley, he kind of had a dominant run with it. I don't know. I don't watch NXT, so I can't really talk about that. But again, it does establish, Judgment Day as this unstoppable faction. Not only that, damn well he's not going to win a mid-card title. Damn well he's not going to beat Gunther for that title. And, of course, him being a Raw guy, he's not going to go after Austin Theory. But him winning the North American title, yes, it kind of doesn't make any sense because he's a Raw guy. But if you look at it from a story perspective from Judgment Day, it does make total sense. But we're going to have to wait and see what they do. Of course, the bigger story is Damian Priest and Finn Balor. They were teasing a couple of weeks ago J.D. McDonough, but from what it looks like, those plans are kind of nixed right now, which I have absolutely no idea why. They teased it on 1 week, and then all of a sudden on Raw for the next, how many weeks? 4 weeks, they don't even mention J.D. McDonough. He's not even on the show. So really, what was the point of that? But again, Judgment Day, if you really think about it, they are becoming the second biggest faction in WWE right now behind the Bloodline. The Bloodline is not only the top faction in, WWE, but they're the biggest faction in all of wrestling right now. And the story with the Bloodline is the biggest story going on in wrestling. And we really need another one similar to that, once the Bloodline is over with the Judgment Day. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Of course, the entire Judgment Day stuff plays out on Raw, so I don't know why Dominik is on this show, but it is what it is. We got the main event segment. We got the rules of engagement between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. Was this the best Bloodline segment? No. Was it a bad segment? No, it wasn't a bad segment. It was a good segment. It's just if you compare it to the level of just, how do I say it? The level of emotion that previous Bloodline segments had, this kind of had like the lesser of the emotion when it comes to a normal Bloodline segment that you would see. For example, a couple weeks ago in Madison Square Garden, 40 minutes opening up SmackDown was probably the best thing that could have ever happened. It was absolutely phenomenal the way that segment played out. Jay, just the level of investment with the audience, with the amount of pops that would happen whenever a big thing would happen. For example, Sami Zayn hitting Roman Reigns with the chair at the Royal Rumble. That was a big-ass pop. You had basically Jey Uso swerving Sami Zayn in the build-up to WrestleMania, only to swerve Sami Zayn, and then he ends up joining Jey Uso, blah, blah, blah. A lot of great stuff happened with the Bloodline, and this was not a bad segment whatsoever, but it wasn't the best segment whatsoever if you compare all the segments regarding the Bloodline. But let's go through the segment. Roman Reigns gets the microphone. Orlando, Florida, acknowledge me. Roman Reigns sits down at the legitimate head of the table. Jey sits down on the side of the table. Roman asks Jey, "Do you really still want this? Are you sure about this?" And then Jey replies, "Yeah, I still want to do this. I am supposed to do this. You're making me do this because you called the shot. Jimmy's in the hospital. Now I, am out to get you." Roman is like, little Jey, you ain't going to get me because you don't get it. You're just a soldier, man, a pawn in this game. Roman then gets the contract. We'll get a bunch of Uso chants by the audience. And then Roman signs the contract, and then he gives it to Jey. Jey gets the contract, and Jey immediately rips up the contract. And he says, "We don't need no contract. The contract is in the blood. This right here, this is tribal combat right now." And then Roman replies, "Do the elders know about this?" And Jey is like, "It's your idea." And what happens is he says, "Tribal combat. That means anything goes." He can light him up with a stick. He can grab a chair. He can put your ass through that announce table. Roman then tells him to shut his mouth. Then he says, "Little Jey, shut your mouth. The tribal chief is talking now. You think this is his first rodeo? You think he ran this business for almost a decade now," in which he kind of did and didn't. And he places the belt onto the table, and he says, "It's done. Let's go." And then he stands up. And Jey then says, "It's tribal combat now." And then Jey gets up. Then Roman takes his necklace off, of course, signifying that necklace, of course, signifies you as the head of the table and the tribal chief. And Roman takes his necklace off. He places it around the championship belt. And then Roman rocks around, and it looks like he's going to shake the hand of Jey. And instead, they just kind of like do a hand gesture or a handshake, and they go head to head. And then Roman leaves. Solo is in the ring. And what happens is when Roman is about to leave, Solo is in the ring. He flips over the table, and he tries to go for the Samoan spike on Jey Uso. And what happens is Roman immediately comes back and blocks Solo Sikoa. But what happens is once Roman blocks Solo Sikoa, Jey actually catches Solo and ends up hitting a super kick on Solo Sikoa. Roman then slowly leaves the ring, and the show ends. Overall, this was not a bad segment. Again, if you compare it to other Bloodline segments, this was not the best Bloodline segments. I mean, I even went on record, every Bloodline segment we get tends to top itself almost every week. Unfortunately, this is one of those instances where this particular Bloodline segment just doesn't top the previous Bloodline segment. Really, the best one so far was clearly the Tribal Court of Roman Reigns. That was just absolutely phenomenal. But, nonetheless, it's official. We are going to be getting Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Championship. Now, what is the meaning of a tribal combat? What is the meaning of a tribal combat? Could that mean This could be a no-holds-barred match. We have absolutely no idea. It's probably maybe just a fancy word of a no-holds-barred match or a street fight. We have absolutely no idea, and Jey even alluded to the fact that, hey, I can hit you with the chair, I can hit you with ladder, I can send you your ass to the announce table, whatever. So clearly what it looks like, the stipulation is going to be that this match is going to be a no DQ, no holds barred, false count anywhere match. Well, not false count anywhere, but, you get the drift. But still, that's what the match is alluding to, and honestly, this is going to be absolutely amazing. I mean, bro, this Bloodline stuff has been phenomenal. It's not going to culminate at SummerSlam. Of course, it's going to culminate at WrestleMania 40. But still, man, the story of Jey Uso and Roman Reigns, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Jey Uso already has one up on Roman Reigns. But the bigger question is he going to beat Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Championship? The only answer that I can give you is no. He's not going to beat Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Championship because WWE already planted the seeds of Solo Sikoa taking over Roman Reigns as the next tribal chief. They clearly teased it throughout the past couple of segments with the Bloodline. And honestly, Solo Sikoa, if there's a guy that could easily beat Roman Reigns, it's Solo Sikoa. There's a greater story to be told, and the guy is clearly Solo Sikoa. And they've been teasing it not only on previous weeks, but they teased it on this show as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Solo's role is going to be in the match between Jey Uso and Roman Reigns. But nonetheless, the match is official, and of course it will be taking place at Ford Field in Detroit. It's going to be Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso for the Undisputed Championship at SummerSlam. But yeah, that was my Friday Night SmackDown review from July 21st, 2023. Overall thoughts on this show, this was not the best SmackDown show. If anything, there was a lot of stuff that really made no sense on this show. For example, LA Knight not winning the Fatal 4-Way to me was a crime. I think you should have had LA Knight win and have him beat Santos Escobar and have him beat Austin Theory for the United States Championship, but clearly that is not the direction that they're going. WWE wants us to be patient for a guy like LA Knight, but LA Knight, those LA Knight chants, those yeahs are getting louder and louder and louder week by week by week. The booking of Santos Escobar versus Austin Theory made no goddamn sense, even though Santos Escobar is a part of this fucking tournament. We had the, of course, Rules of Engagement, which was probably the best thing on the show, but it was not the best Bloodline segment we've ever seen. But nonetheless, really, this was kind of a nothing show if you really think about it. The show was on FS1. I didn't really care a lot about this show, to be quite honest with you. But, this is what, unfortunately, we're gonna have to deal with, not only with WWE, but with AEW as well. But yeah, that was my SmackDown review from July 21st, 2023. Be on the lookout for episode 23 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. I was thinking about uploading it today, but of course I had the SmackDown review. I'm still thinking whether or not I should upload it tomorrow. I still have to film episode 23, and I still got to get together all the topics on what I'm going to be discussing and also create the thumbnail. But I will be coming to you guys hopefully tomorrow with episode 23. Usually on Saturdays, I tend to cover Collision immediately after the show goes off the air and then upload it. But I'm actually going to be live at the Prudential Center tomorrow night for Collision. So it's going to be very weird. I'm planning on possibly doing a vlog for Collision. I'm still not sure whether or not I should do it or not. But I'm going to have to wait and see. I will be showing you guys clips and, footage of me being at the show. Hopefully I can maybe upload some YouTube shorts of that as well. But I'm going to be at AEW Collision. I actually got some good seats, so I'm excited. And you guys are probably going to be seeing me when you guys watch the show on television, on TNT. So, yeah, it's going to be freaking awesome. The card is finally unveiled for Collision tomorrow night. But nonetheless, I'm going to Collision tomorrow. I will be giving you guys a Collision review on Sunday, so I'll give you guys my thoughts on that. But, yeah, that's really what I got going on for this whole weekend. But, as always, of course, please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, of course, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and, as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And, as always, it is Flamin' Rick, Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys later. Peace.